everyone. Welcome to Stories for Sleepers. Are you ready to drift into a peaceful, restful night? Let the soft whispers of our stories guide you into a world of dreams as we take you on a journey through captivating tales and calming adventures. If you're new here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss out on the relaxing stories we have waiting for you. Hit the bell icon and be part of our cozy, dream-filled community. Let's begin tonight's adventure. The moon shone brightly over an old, abandoned mansion at the edge of a quiet village. Its broken windows and cracked walls whispered tales of mystery. Nobody dared to step inside, but strange stories always surrounded the place. Some said they had seen shadows moving across the corridors late at night. Others claimed to hear soft footsteps echoing when no one was there. One evening, a curious girl named Lily stood outside the mansion. She had always been drawn to mysteries, and this house felt like it was calling her. Despite the warnings from the villagers, Lily decided to explore the mansion. Her heart raced as she pushed open the creaky door. The air was cold, and the silence was heavy, broken only by the distant sound of soft footsteps. As Lily stepped into the long, moonlit corridor, her footsteps echoed faintly. The place smelled of dust and old wood, making it feel even more eerie. Suddenly, she heard the soft patter of footsteps behind her. Turning quickly, she saw nothing but shadows. "Is someone there?" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. There was no reply, but the footsteps continued, growing louder and then fading again. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. She clutched her flashlight tightly and moved forward, determined to uncover the truth. Each step took her deeper into the mansion, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger. In the heart of the corridor, Lily noticed a shadow on the wall. It didn't match her movements, as if it had a life of its own. Suddenly, a faint whisper filled the air. It wasn't loud enough to understand, but was clear enough to send shivers through her. "Who are you?" Lily asked, her voice shaking. The whisper stopped, and the shadow disappeared into the far end of the corridor. Driven by curiosity and fear, Lily followed it. The closer she got, the colder the air became. She could feel her breath quicken, but something inside her urged her not to turn back. At the end of the corridor, Lily found an old wooden door. It looked out of place, as if someone had sealed it a long time ago. The footsteps and whispers seemed to be coming from behind it. Gathering all her courage, Lily pushed the door open. Inside, she saw a small, dusty room with a large mirror hanging on the wall. As she stepped closer, the mirror seemed to shimmer under the moonlight. For a moment, she thought she saw her reflection move differently, its lips forming silent words. The whispers grew louder, almost like a plea for help. "Why are you here?" Lily whispered, feeling an unexplainable connection to the strange room. Days passed after Lily's visit to the mansion, but she couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. Although the footsteps and whispers had stopped, the memory lingered in her mind. The villagers noticed the change in the mansion too. "It feels calmer," one of them said. But for Lily, calm didn't mean everything was over. One night, as she sat by her window staring at the moon, she felt a strange pull. It was as though the mansion was calling her again. But why, she wondered. Determined to find answers, she decided to return. This time she wasn't scared, but filled with an odd curiosity. The mirror suddenly cracked, and Lily stumbled back in shock. Through the cracks, she saw a faint image of a woman trapped inside. The whispers became clear. "Help me. free me." Lily realized that the footsteps and shadows were not meant to harm her. They were a call for help from a spirit trapped for years. With trembling hands, Lily touched the mirror, and a cold energy surged through her. The room brightened for a moment, and then everything went silent. The mansion felt lighter, and the whispers stopped. As Lily left the house, she knew she had freed the soul trapped in the corridor. The villagers never heard the footsteps again, but Lily would never forget her eerie yet unforgettable adventure. Days passed after Lily's visit to the mansion, but she couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. Although the footsteps and whispers had stopped, the memory lingered in her mind. The villagers noticed the change in the mansion too. "It feels calmer," one of them said. But for Lily, calm didn't mean everything was over. One night, as she sat by her window staring at the moon, she felt a strange pull. It was as though the mansion was calling her again. But why? She wondered. Determined to find answers, she decided to return. This time she wasn't scared, but filled with an odd curiosity. As Lily approached the mansion, the wind howled softly, carrying with it a faint sound, a voice. It wasn't a whisper, but a soft hum, like a melody from a distant memory. When she stepped inside the corridor, the hum grew louder, echoing faintly in the empty space. Lily followed the sound, her flashlight guiding her. It led her back to the small room with the cracked mirror. To her surprise, the mirror was no longer cracked, but whole again. The surface gleamed under the moonlight as if it were alive. "What do you want me to see?" she whispered, her heart pounding. As Lily stared into the mirror, an image began to form. She saw a young woman standing in the corridor, holding a candle. Her face looked sad, as if she had lost everything. Lily realized this was the same spirit she had freed. The woman mouthed silent words, but Lily couldn't hear them. Suddenly, the mirror rippled like water, and Lily felt herself being drawn in. She found herself standing in the past, in the same corridor, but filled with life and warmth. The woman appeared beside her, pointing toward a door. "What's behind it?" Lily asked, but the woman just shook her head and disappeared. The door the woman pointed to was different from the others, painted black and locked tightly. Lily hesitated but felt an urge to open it. She found an old key hanging on the wall nearby and used it to unlock the door. Inside was a small library filled with dusty books and journals. One journal lay open on a table, its pages glowing faintly. Lily picked it up and began reading. It told the story of the young woman, Eleanor, who once lived in the mansion. She was accused of witchcraft and locked away in the house until her death. She was innocent, Lily realized, her heart aching for the spirit. As Lily read further, she discovered a chilling detail. Eleanor had left a mark, a symbol hidden somewhere in the mansion that proved her innocence. If the mark was found, her spirit would finally be at peace. Lily knew she had to find it, but time seemed to be running out. The air in the mansion grew colder, and shadows began to move around her. The hum from earlier turned into whispers again, guiding her back to the corridor. "Where is the mark?" she asked aloud, hoping for a sign. Then, a faint glow appeared on the wall near the end of the hallway. Lily ran toward the glowing spot and found a small engraving hidden under the peeling wallpaper. It was a symbol, a circle with a star inside it. As soon as she touched it, the house trembled, and the whispers turned into a single, clear voice. Thank you, Eleanor's voice said softly. The symbol began to shine brightly, and Lily felt a wave of warmth pass through her. It was as if the mansion itself was releasing a long-held breath. The shadows disappeared, and the eerie atmosphere melted into calm. Lily knew she had done what she came for. Eleanor was free. As Lily stepped out of the mansion for the last time, she turned to look back. The house no longer looked dark and menacing. Instead, it seemed almost peaceful under the moonlight. The villagers, noticing the change, began to visit the mansion without fear. Lily kept Eleanor's journal as a reminder of her strange adventure. Though the footsteps were gone and the whispers had faded, the memory of that night stayed with her. Every time she looked at the journal, she felt a sense of pride and peace, knowing she had helped a lost soul find freedom. Lily thought the story of the mansion had ended, but strange dreams began to haunt her nights. In her dreams, she saw Eleanor standing by the glowing symbol, her face filled with sadness. "There's more to the story," Eleanor whispered. Lily would wake up with a start, her heart racing. One evening, as Lily stared at the journal, she noticed something she had missed before. Hidden between the pages was a folded piece of paper. Unfolding it, she found a map of the mansion with a strange red mark in the basement. What could be there, she wondered. Her curiosity pulled her back to the mansion once again. Aaron Oakram sat on the throne. Lily arrived at the mansion, determined to uncover the final mystery. This time, the house felt eerily quiet, as if it was waiting for her. Using the map, she found a hidden door under a loose floorboard in the corridor. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading to the basement. The air grew colder as she descended, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed in the darkness. The basement was damp and filled with old furniture and boxes covered in cobwebs. In the corner, she noticed a wooden chest with the same symbol she had found on the wall. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside the chest was a collection of old letters, a locket, and a small candle. The letters were written by Eleanor, revealing her deep loneliness and fear during her last days in the mansion. She had been wrongly accused and betrayed by someone she trusted. This is her story, Lily thought, tears welling up in her eyes. The locket held a faded picture of a man and Eleanor. It seemed to be someone she loved deeply. He must have betrayed her, Lily guessed. Suddenly, the candle lit up on its own, casting a warm glow. Eleanor's voice echoed softly, "You found it, but the truth lies beyond." As the candlelight flickered, Lily noticed a faint outline of a door on the basement wall. She pushed against it, and it creaked open, revealing a narrow passage. The air inside was musty, and the walls were covered in strange markings. With the candle lighting her way, Lily ventured deeper. At the end of the passage, she found a small room filled with old artifacts and a large book resting on a pedestal. The book seemed ancient, with its pages glowing faintly. As she opened it, she realized it contained the names of people who had wronged Eleanor. The last name was crossed out, but it wasn't clear why. Lily studied the book and discovered a chilling truth. The man in the locket, William, was not only Eleanor's lover, but also the one who had accused her of witchcraft. His betrayal had led to her imprisonment and eventual death, but there was something more. Eleanor's spirit had been tied to the mansion, unable to move on until her story was fully uncovered. Lily's hands trembled as she closed the book. The air around her grew heavy, and she felt Eleanor's presence. "You found my truth," Eleanor's voice whispered. "Now, I can rest. The candle flickered once more and then extinguished itself, leaving Lily in complete darkness. Listen, the candle flickered once more and then extinguished itself, leaving Lily in complete darkness. When Lily climbed back up from the basement, the mansion felt different. The air was warmer and the shadows that once lingered were gone. Outside, the moonlit corridor seemed to glow softly, as if the house itself was thanking her. For the first time, the mansion no longer felt haunted. It felt free. As Lily walked away, she felt a sense of closure. She had uncovered Eleanor's story and helped her spirit find peace. The journal, the locket, and the memories of her adventure were now a part of Lily's life. And though she never returned to the mansion again, she often told its story, keeping Eleanor's memory alive in her own way. Lily thought her connection to the mansion had ended, but fate had other plans. One quiet evening, as she sat reading Eleanor's journal, a gust of wind blew through her open window. It carried a faint whisper, almost like someone calling her name. She froze, her heart racing. Curiosity took over her fear, and she leaned toward the window. "Lily?" The voice came again, softer but clear. She looked out into the moonlit night, and there it was, the mansion, standing tall and silent. Something had changed, and she knew the mansion wasn't done with her yet. Lily returned to the mansion, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The house was quiet, too quiet. As she stepped into the corridor, the air felt charged, as though it was alive. "Why am I here?" she whispered. Almost instantly, a faint voice answered, "You must see." She followed the voice, which led her to the grand staircase. This time the steps didn't creak, and the air was warm, not cold. On the second floor, a door she hadn't noticed before stood slightly ajar. She pushed it open and found a room filled with portraits, each one of Eleanor's ancestors. The portraits seemed to watch Lily as she walked through the room. Beneath each frame was a small plaque with a name and a date. Most of the dates ended abruptly, signaling untimely deaths. At the center of the room was Eleanor's portrait, her eyes filled with sorrow. A leather-bound book rested on a pedestal nearby. Opening it, Lily discovered the family's dark history. It spoke of a curse placed upon them by someone they had wronged long ago. Eleanor had been the last in the line, and her tragic fate was part of this curse. Lily realized that freeing Eleanor had only lifted her personal torment, but the family's curse lingered. As Lily read further, she found instructions for an ancient ritual meant to break the curse. The book explained that the ritual required an offering of light and truth. But what does that mean, she wondered. The answer lay in the mansion itself. The voice from earlier returned, guiding her to the library. In the library, Lily found a candelabra with 7 unlit candles. The voice urged her to light them, and as she did, the room filled with a golden glow. The flames seemed to dance, showing scenes from the past, the betrayal, the curse, and Eleanor's final moments. The images were heartbreaking, but they revealed the truth Lily needed to break the curse. The mansion trembled as the ritual began. Shadows danced on the walls, forming figures from Eleanor's family. Their faces were filled with pain, their eyes pleading for release. Lily held the journal tightly, reciting the words she had found in the ritual book. "Let the light of truth undo the darkness of the past," she chanted. The shadows grew louder, their voices overlapping in anguish. The air grew cold, and for a moment Lily thought she couldn't continue. But then, Eleanor's voice broke through the chaos. "You can do this, Lily," she said softly. Drawing strength from those words, Lily finished the chant. The room exploded in light, and then silence. When Lily opened her eyes, the mansion was bathed in warm sunlight. The once decaying walls were now whole, and the oppressive feeling had vanished. The portraits in the room were glowing softly, their expressions peaceful. Eleanor's portrait was no longer sorrowful. Instead, she seemed to be smiling. As Lily stepped outside, the villagers gathered around, astonished at the transformation. The mansion was no longer a place of fear, but of hope and beauty. Lily felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Though she didn't know what lay ahead, she was certain of one thing. The story of Eleanor and her family had finally found its rightful ending. Days passed, and the mansion stood as a symbol of peace, no longer burdened by its dark past. Lily visited the house often, ensuring that its beauty was preserved. The villagers, once afraid, now spoke of the mansion with reverence, calling it a place of hope. One evening, as Lily stood in the garden, she felt a presence beside her. Turning, she found herself face to face with Eleanor's spirit, no longer sad or lost. "Thank you," Eleanor whispered. "You have freed not just me, but my entire family." With a soft smile, Eleanor faded into the evening light, her form disappearing as the last traces of the curse vanished. As Lily wandered the mansion one last time, she found a single candle on the mantel in the grand hall. It was the last of the 7 she had used during the ritual, but this candle was different. It was burning brightly, as though it had never been touched. She placed it on the pedestal, wondering if it had some final purpose. The flame flickered softly as a gentle breeze filled the room. "It's time for you to leave," came a soft voice from the shadows. Lily turned, expecting to see Eleanor's ghost, but there was only the warm light of the candle. The house, it seemed, no longer needed her. Lily packed her belongings and left the mansion behind. The journey had been long, filled with twists and turns, but now it was time to move on. As she stepped outside, the moonlight illuminated the path ahead. The mansion stood in the distance, its silhouette peaceful and content. For the first time, Lily didn't feel afraid. The mansion had shared its story, and now it was time for her to write her own. As she walked away, she could still feel Eleanor's presence, not as a ghost, but as a part of her journey, a chapter that had ended, but would never be forgotten. Months passed, and life returned to a normal rhythm, but Lily couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something she needed to understand. One night, while revisiting Eleanor's journal, she found a hidden message within the pages, words she had overlooked before. "The mansion will call again when the time is right," the message read. "Do not forget." The words chilled her, yet they filled her with a sense of duty. She had freed Eleanor, but the mansion's story was far from over. Something told her that one day it would need her once more. As Lily reflected on the mansion's journey, she began to see her own life in a new light. The challenges she had faced, the fears she had overcome, and the peace she had brought to the spirits of the mansion had changed her. She had grown stronger, wiser. She decided to share her story with the world, not just to honor Eleanor, but to inspire others who might feel trapped in their own struggles. She started writing her own book, documenting her adventure in the mansion, the spirits she encountered, and the lessons she learned. The story of the mansion was now a part of her legacy. Years later, Lily returned to the mansion. It stood as a testament to the courage and strength of the past. As she walked down the moonlit corridor, she realized that the mansion would always be with her. Its lessons, its mysteries, and its quiet beauty. The corridor, once filled with fear and darkness, was now a place of reflection. The footsteps she had once heard in the night were now her own, echoing softly as she moved forward. Lily knew that no matter where life took her, the mansion's story would always be a part of her. The corridor was no longer just a passage, it was a journey, one that would never truly end. Lily had settled into a peaceful life, but the mansion's story never truly left her. One day she received a letter, an invitation to return. The handwriting was familiar, though she hadn't seen it in years. It was from an old friend of Eleanor's, someone who had lived in the village long before the mansion's curse had been broken. The letter spoke of strange occurrences at the mansion. The family's belongings had begun to move again, and the whispers in the wind had returned. Despite the peace that had come after the ritual, something was stirring beneath the surface. The mansion, it seemed, still held secrets, and Lily knew she had to face them once more. Lily arrived at the mansion late in the evening, the full moon casting a silvery glow on the building. The moment she stepped onto the grounds, she felt a familiar presence. The mansion, though outwardly unchanged, felt different. There was a heaviness in the air, a sense that something was waiting. Inside, the house was quieter than before. The floors creaked with each step, and the portraits on the walls seemed to follow her with their eyes. Lily knew the spirits of the mansion had not left. They had merely been waiting for something. She made her way up to the grand staircase, her heart racing as she felt the weight of the past surrounding her. At the top of the staircase, Lily found a door she hadn't seen before. It was hidden behind a tapestry, almost as if it had been waiting for her. The door was old, its wood worn with age, but it was solid and untouched. Lily hesitated for a moment, but then she reached for the handle. The door creaked open to reveal a small, dusty room. In the center stood an ancient chest, its surface covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. The air in the room was thick with the scent of old books and forgotten memories. Lily approached the chest cautiously, knowing that whatever lay inside could change everything once again. With trembling hands, Lily opened the chest. Inside, she found a collection of old letters, journals, and a small, intricately carved box. As she sifted through the items, one letter caught her attention. It was from Eleanor herself, written shortly before her death. Dear Lily Henton, in the 11th year that I reckon appropriate for you, Lily write of me all the time for ideas. The letter spoke of a secret that had been kept from the family for generations. A hidden truth that, if revealed, would shatter everything. Eleanor had tried to destroy the evidence, but it seemed fate had kept it safe. Lily knew that the mansion's history wasn't just about curses and spirits. It was about betrayal, lies, and a family torn apart by greed. As Lily read the letter, she felt a chill run down her spine. The room grew colder, and the shadows seemed to grow deeper. It was as if the mansion itself was reacting to the revelation. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her, and the chest lid slammed down with a deafening bang. Lily's heart pounded as she tried to open the door, but it was locked. The shadows in the room began to move, swirling around her. It was then that she understood. The curse wasn't over. The family's hidden secret had been the key to the mansion's unrest, and now it had been awakened. She needed to finish what she had started. Desperation clawed at Lily as the shadows closed in around her. The letter from Eleanor was her only guide, and she knew what she had to do. She recited the words of the ritual once more, hoping that the power of truth would finally break the mansion's grip on the past. As the final word left her lips, the room seemed to explode with light. The shadows melted away, and the door swung open, revealing the hallway outside. The air was still, and the oppressive weight had lifted. The mansion was finally free. Lily stood in the doorway, breathing heavily, her heart racing. The curse was broken, but at what cost? The mansion had revealed its deepest secrets, and now it was time for her to leave it behind. With one last look, she stepped out of the room, knowing that the mansion's story had ended, and so had hers. After the mansion's final secrets were revealed, Lily left with a heavy heart, but also a sense of relief. The mystery had been solved, and the mansion's troubled past was no longer a burden. Yet, something within her had changed. She had stepped into the unknown, faced her fears, and uncovered a truth that no one else could. Walking away from the mansion, Lily made a vow to herself: to start anew, to let go of the past, and to live a life full of purpose and courage. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, she felt as though she was walking into a new chapter of her own story. She had freed the mansion, but now she was ready to free herself. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly returned to normal. The mansion, once filled with fear, now stood silent under the moonlight. No more footsteps echoed through the halls, no more whispers carried through the air. It was as if the house itself had finally found peace. Lily, too, found peace in her own life. She reconnected with old friends, traveled to new places, and began to embrace the joys of a simpler life. The trauma of the past had faded, replaced by new memories and new adventures, but she never forgot the mansion and the spirits that had helped her along the way. One day, as Lily sat by the window, her thoughts wandered back to the mansion. She could almost hear the faint sound of footsteps, but it wasn't the eerie kind that had once haunted her. This time, it was a comforting, familiar rhythm. She closed her eyes and smiled softly. Eleanor's spirit was at peace, and so was the mansion. Lily knew she had been a part of something much bigger than herself. The mansion's history would forever be a part of her, but now it was just a memory, a chapter that had been closed. Lily returned to the village one last time, not to revisit the mansion, but to honor what she had experienced. The villagers, who had once feared the house, now saw it as a symbol of resilience. Lily had given them the courage to look beyond the darkness and find the light. She stood in front of the mansion, the moon shining brightly above, and whispered a silent promise to Eleanor. "I will carry your story with me, always. You are free, and so am I." With that, she turned away and walked into the future, knowing that the mansion would always be a part of her past, but no longer a part of her present. Years passed, and life carried on. Lily never forgot the mansion or the spirits she had encountered there. As she grew older, she began to write a book about her experiences, not just to share her journey, but to ensure that the truth of the mansion would never be forgotten. Her book became a bestseller, read by many who had once doubted the existence of the spirits that lingered in the shadows. Through her words, Lily shared not only the mansion's story, but also her own. The tale of courage, fear, and redemption inspired countless others to face their own fears and find peace. One fateful night, years after her final visit to the mansion, Lily returned once more. This time, it wasn't out of duty or fear, but out of a deep sense of closure. The mansion stood tall, bathed in the soft light of the moon, its silhouette unchanged by the years. As Lily walked down the familiar corridor, she felt no fear, no unease. The footsteps she had once heard now seemed like distant echoes of the past. The mansion had given her everything it could, its stories, its mysteries, and its ghosts. And now it was truly at peace. With a final glance at the moonlit corridor, Lily stepped outside and felt the cool night air on her face. She smiled, knowing that the mansion's story had been told and that she had played her part. The moonlight, gentle and eternal, would always guide her forward, as it had done for Eleanor and so many before her. Lily's life had taken a new turn, but the mansion still lingered in her heart. She spent her days traveling, sharing her story with the world, but there was always a part of her that felt connected to that place. The mansion, its history, and the spirits that had once haunted it were now a part of her. It wasn't just a tale of fear and ghosts. It was a legacy of courage, of breaking free from the shadows. The people she met along the way were touched by her strength, and they too began to confront their own pasts. The mansion's story had transcended its dark walls and become a symbol of hope. Lily's journey continued to inspire, and she soon found herself invited to speak at conferences about courage, fear, and the healing power of facing the unknown. It was at one such event that she met someone who shared a similar story, another soul who had faced the darkness of the past and emerged victorious. Together, they wrote a book, combining their stories and lessons. It became a beacon for those seeking to overcome their own struggles, a light in the dark. As the book reached more readers, Lily realized that the mansion had not just been a place of mystery, it had been the beginning of something much bigger. Years passed, and Lily's life continued to unfold in ways she never imagined. The mansion, though distant in her memory, still held a piece of her heart. One evening, as she sat by the fire, she received a call that would change everything once again. The mansion had been sold. The new owners had discovered strange occurrences and strange marks on the walls. The house was, once again, calling to her. She felt the pull deep in her soul. The journey she had started had not ended. It was only just beginning. Lily arrived at the mansion, now in the hands of a new family. The house had changed little, but there was a sense of restlessness in the air. The new owners had heard the stories, but they didn't understand the depth of what had transpired within the mansion's walls. The family was scared, unsure of what was happening in their home. They asked Lily to stay and help them, just as she had done so many years ago. With a heavy heart, Lily agreed, knowing that her unfinished business with the mansion was far from over. As Lily settled into the mansion once again, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something darker than anything she had faced before. The air was thick with tension, and the spirits, though quiet, seemed to stir restlessly. Every night, strange things began to happen. Objects moved on their own, and whispers could be heard in the corridors. Lily knew this was not the work of ghosts, but something much older, something far more dangerous. The mansion's curse had never truly been broken. Lily began to delve deeper into the mansion's history, searching for answers. She found old diaries hidden in forgotten corners, each one telling a piece of the mansion's dark past. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that the curse wasn't just about the spirits. It was about the power that had been buried beneath the house for centuries. She knew that to truly put the mansion's restless spirits to rest, she would need to uncover the full truth. But the deeper she went, the more dangerous it became. There were forces in the mansion that did not want their secrets revealed. The mansion seemed to fight back as Lily uncovered more of its hidden past. Shadows whispered in the halls, and doors slammed shut without warning. It felt as though the house itself was alive, determined to keep its secrets locked away forever. But Lily was determined. She gathered the new owners, and together they performed a ritual, one far stronger than the last. It was a battle of wills between the living and the forces that had once controlled the mansion. The spirits of the past seemed to rise up against them, but Lily and the family held their ground. At last the mansion fell silent. The winds ceased to howl, the shadows stopped moving, and the house no longer felt alive with the restless energy that had once haunted it. Lily knew that she had finally done it. The curse was truly broken. As she stood in the moonlit corridor one final time, Lily felt a deep sense of peace. The mansion had given her the strength to face her deepest fears, and now it was time to let go. The spirits had been freed, and the mansion's story had come to an end. With a final glance at the once haunted house, Lily turned and walked away, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The mansion's legacy had been laid to rest, and she had done the unthinkable. She had brought peace to a place that had known nothing but darkness. Years passed, and Lily's life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. She moved on, building a new life full of hope and peace. The mansion, once a symbol of fear, had now become a distant memory. But every so often, as she sat by the window on quiet nights, she felt a pull, a reminder of the journey she had started so long ago. Though her life was full of new beginnings, she couldn't shake the feeling that the mansion's story was not yet fully told. The shadows had been quiet for years, but Lily felt that the house still held something deep within its walls, something that needed to be shared. It was a secret she could never forget. One night, after a long day of reflection, Lily received an unexpected letter. It was an invitation to visit the mansion once more, this time to speak to a group of paranormal investigators who had recently purchased the property. They wanted her guidance, her insight into the mansion's history, and the truth she had uncovered. Lily hesitated. The thought of returning to the mansion filled her with mixed emotions. She had moved on from the house, but part of her knew that she could never fully close the door on that chapter of her life. So with a quiet resolve, she agreed to return one last time. When Lily arrived at the mansion, it felt like stepping back into a world she had long left behind. The moonlit corridors were still as eerie as ever, and the once familiar sounds of creaking wood echoed through the halls. But this time, Lily was different. She had faced her fears, and she no longer trembled in the presence of the unknown. She then rested her head against his shoulder and began to cry. The paranormal investigators were eager to meet her, excited to hear her story and learn from her experiences. But Lily could sense that something had shifted in the mansion. There was a new energy in the air, one that felt both familiar and unsettling. It was as if the house had been waiting for her return. As the group began their investigation, strange things started happening once again. Objects moved on their own, and the air grew thick with a chilling presence. The investigators were startled, but Lily remained calm. She had been through this before, and she knew that the mansion's spirits were not the only forces at play here. She began to guide the team through the mansion, helping them understand the deeper layers of the house's history. The spirits that had once haunted the halls were no longer vengeful. They were lost, confused, and in need of guidance. Lily had learned this the hard way years ago, and now she was ready to help them one final time. As the night wore on, the mansion seemed to come alive with energy. The temperature dropped, and strange whispers filled the air. The investigators were on edge, but Lily pressed forward, determined to uncover the source of this new unrest. It became clear that something more powerful than the spirits of the past was at work. The mansion had been built upon a foundation of dark secrets, secrets that had been buried deep within its walls. As the storm outside raged on, Lily could feel the tension mounting, as if the house itself was on the verge of revealing its final truth. In the depths of the mansion, Lily discovered an old, hidden room, a room that had never been mentioned in any of the mansion's records. The air was heavy with a sense of foreboding as she opened the door. Inside, she found strange markings on the walls, symbols she recognized from the ancient diary she had once uncovered. This room, Lily realized, had been the source of the mansion's curse. It was a place where dark rituals had been performed, where powerful forces had been summoned and bound within the house. The spirits who had haunted the mansion were not the only ones trapped here. There was something far more dangerous, something that had never been freed. As Lily examined the markings on the walls, a sudden chill filled the room. The air crackled with energy, and the ground beneath her feet trembled. The dark force that had been buried for so long had awoken, and it was angry. Her life had returned to a place of quiet simplicity. She spent her days with loved ones, finding solace in the ordinary moments that once seemed so fleeting. She had faced darkness and emerged stronger, and now she was ready to embrace the tranquility she had fought for. Lily decided to start a new chapter in her life, one that would honor the lessons she had learned from the mansion. She opened a small bookstore in her town, a place where people could escape into the worlds of fiction and fantasy. It became a sanctuary for her, a place where she could connect with others who sought peace in the written word. Lily felt the weight of its presence closing in on her, but she didn't retreat. She had faced fear before, and she would do so again. The spirits she had once helped had been at peace, but this dark force was something entirely different. It was not a spirit, it was an ancient power, one that had been waiting for the right moment to rise. The room grew darker, the air heavier, as the dark force made its presence known. The paranormal investigators, who had once been excited about the possibility of uncovering the mansion's secrets, were now terrified. They had never encountered anything like this before. Lily knew what had to be done. She had to face this force head-on, just as she had faced the spirits years ago. With the strength of everything she had learned from her past, she performed the ancient ritual that would bind the dark force once again. It was a dangerous and powerful act, but it was the only way to protect the mansion and everyone inside it. The dark force fought back with every ounce of its power. The room shook violently as Lily fought to maintain control. The spirits of the mansion, once her allies, seemed to rise up in support, their voices urging her on. But the power she was facing was unlike anything she had ever encountered. The struggle was intense, the air thick with the clash of opposing forces. But Lily refused to give up. She channeled all the strength and wisdom she had gained over the years, calling upon the spirits to aid her in this final battle. With one last surge of power, she sealed the dark force away, locking it back within the walls of the mansion. As the storm outside calmed, and the air cleared, the mansion fell silent. The darkness that had once threatened to consume everything had been defeated. The spirits, now at rest, whispered their gratitude to Lily, who had saved them from an eternity of unrest. Lily stood in the quiet aftermath, knowing that her journey with the mansion had finally come to an end. The house was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of peace. She had faced the darkness, broken the curse, and freed the trapped spirits. "Now!" Haley cried. With one final glance at the mansion, Lily turned and walked away. This time, there would be no return. The mansion's story had been told, and it was done. She had helped it find peace, and in doing so, she had found her own. After the final battle at the mansion, Lily returned home, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The sense of peace that had filled the mansion now followed her, surrounding her like a protective shield. The events of the past, once so haunting and all-consuming, now felt like distant memories. The bookstore was more than just a business. It was a reflection of her journey. Each book on the shelf represented a story, a new beginning, and for the first time in a long while, Lily felt a sense of purpose beyond her past struggles. One day, a young woman came into Lily's bookstore, carrying an old, weathered book. It was a familiar sight, one of the books from the mansion's library. Lily's heart skipped a beat as the woman handed it to her. The book had been part of the mansion's collection, a piece of history that had been lost for so long. The young woman explained that she had found the book in a second-hand store. Lily knew it had to be more than coincidence. It was a sign that the past was not fully behind her, that there were still pieces of the mansion's story waiting to be discovered. The book, she realized, had somehow found its way back into her life. As Lily opened the pages of the book, she was transported back to the mansion. The familiar weight of its history pressed against her, and the whispers of the past echoed in her mind. Though the mansion had been left behind, it was clear that its story was far from over. The voices that had once haunted the halls now seemed to speak directly to her. They weren't angry or vengeful, but full of gratitude. They had been freed, and now they sought to help Lily continue her work. It was as if they were guiding her toward something important, something she still had to do. One evening, as Lily closed the bookstore, a mysterious figure appeared at the door. He was a man, older than she expected, with an air of quiet authority. He introduced himself as a historian, someone who had studied the mansion's past for years. He spoke of the mansion's dark history, its connection to an ancient curse, and the many souls it had trapped over the centuries. He had heard of Lily's journey and wanted to learn more. Despite the peace she had found, Lily felt a strange connection to him, a feeling that their paths were meant to cross. The historian shared with Lily a discovery he had made, a long-lost journal belonging to the mansion's original owner. As he flipped through the pages, Lily recognized the same symbols and markings she had seen in the hidden room. The journal contained information about the dark force that had once plagued the mansion, along with a cryptic message that seemed to hint at a final piece of the puzzle. Lily realized that the mansion's history was still unfolding. There was something more to the story, something that needed to be uncovered before she could fully let go. With the historian's help, she set out to decode the journal's secrets and uncover the mansion's final truth. As Lily and the historian studied the journal, they discovered that the mansion held another secret, one that had been hidden for centuries. There was a door concealed behind a false wall deep within the mansion's basement. The journal hinted at its existence, but no one had ever found it. Determined to uncover the truth, Lily returned to the mansion once again, this time with the historian by her side. As they explored the forgotten corners of the mansion, they felt the presence of something ancient and powerful, something that had been waiting for them to return. When Lily and the historian finally found the hidden door, they felt a surge of energy unlike anything they had ever experienced. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber filled with strange artifacts and symbols. At the center of the room stood an altar, ancient and worn, with a book resting on its surface. The book, like the one Lily had found years ago, was bound in dark leather. It was the final piece of the puzzle. As she opened it, Lily understood the truth. The mansion had been a place where dark forces were not only trapped, but also sealed away. The rituals that had been performed there were designed to protect the world from these ancient powers. As Lily read the book, she realized that she faced a choice. The dark force that had once threatened to destroy everything could be unleashed once again, but only if she chose to release it. The spirits of the mansion, though grateful for her help, now begged her to leave the dark forces where they were. The historian, too, understood the danger of releasing such power, but Lily had always been a person who faced fear head-on. She could feel the weight of the decision bearing down on her. Should she let the forces remain sealed, or was there a greater purpose in unlocking their power? After much contemplation, Lily made her decision. She chose to leave the dark forces sealed, knowing that their power was too dangerous to be unleashed. The mansion's story was finally complete, and it was time for her to move forward, leaving the past where it belonged. With the historian's help, Lily sealed the hidden chamber once more, ensuring that the dark force would never threaten the world again. She walked away from the mansion, knowing that she had done all she could. The silence that followed was not just the absence of footsteps. It was the peace she had longed for. After sealing the mansion's dark secrets away, Lily returned to her peaceful life. The bookstore had flourished, and her heart had found a sense of contentment she had never thought possible. She was surrounded by friends, the gentle hum of life now her constant companion. But even in the tranquility of her new life, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unfinished. The mansion's mysteries had been solved, yet a lingering question remained in her mind. Was there more to her story that she hadn't yet discovered? One afternoon, as Lily was organizing the shelves in her bookstore, a familiar face appeared at the door. It was the historian, though this time he seemed different, more urgent, almost haunted. "I need your help again," he said, his voice low. "There's something I didn't tell you before, something important about the mansion." Lily's heart skipped a beat, but she nodded, ready to listen. The past had always called her back, and this time, it seemed, the call would be stronger than ever. The historian handed Lily a yellowed letter, one that had been tucked away in the pages of the journal. It was written in a language she couldn't understand, the letters twisting in ways that seemed unnatural. The historian explained that this letter had been hidden for a reason. Its contents were meant to remain secret. But now, he said, the time had come to unlock its meaning. Together, they set out to find someone who could translate it, knowing that whatever it contained, it was a key to understanding the final layer of the mansion's dark history. They sought out an old professor, a linguist who had studied ancient texts and languages. As the professor translated the letter, his face grew pale. The letter spoke of a curse far more ancient than the mansion itself, one that tied Lily to the land in ways she had never imagined. It was revealed that Lily was not just a bystander in the mansion's history. She was its destined protector, chosen long before her arrival. The letter spoke of a bloodline that ran through her veins, one that had always been connected to the mansion's dark forces. The professor's revelation struck Lily like a bolt of lightning. She had always believed herself to be free of the mansion's influence, yet now she realized that it had always been a part of her. The mansion was not just a place, it was a part of her very soul, and the curse had never truly been broken. The dark forces, though sealed, had awakened something inside her. The connection was not just one of past lives, it was alive within her. Lily could feel the ancient power stirring, ready to rise again. As the days passed, Lily began to experience strange dreams, visions of the mansion, of shadowy figures, and of whispers that grew louder with each passing night. She couldn't ignore the feeling that the forces she had sealed away were not as dormant as she had thought. The historian returned to warn her that the curse had not been fully contained. The bloodline connection was not a blessing, it was a burden, one that would make her the target of the very forces she had once tried to protect the world from. Desperate for answers, Lily embarked on a journey to learn more about her bloodline and the curse that bound her to the mansion. She traveled to ancient libraries, met with scholars, and delved into every piece of history she could find. But every clue she uncovered only seemed to deepen the mystery. She learned that the curse was a pact made centuries ago by her ancestors, a pact that bound their descendants to the mansion and its dark powers. The curse could only be broken if the final heir, her, chose to sacrifice everything, even her own life, to release the mansion's grip once and for all. The historian, now an ally in her quest, explained the true nature of the curse. Lily had the power to break it, but it would require an unimaginable sacrifice. She would have to give up everything, her life, her future, and her very existence as she knew it. In return, the mansion's dark forces would be eradicated, and the bloodline would be free forever. But Lily was torn. The thought of losing everything, including the life she had rebuilt, weighed heavily on her heart. Was it worth the sacrifice? Was her peace worth more than the lives of those who would suffer if the curse remained? Lily spent days in contemplation, her mind racing with questions and doubts. She realized that her life had never truly been her own, not since the moment she first entered the mansion. Her purpose, it seemed, had always been tied to the curse and the mansion's dark past. Finally, she made her decision. She would break the curse, not for herself, but for those she loved, for the world that would be free of the darkness she had inherited. With a heavy heart, she prepared herself for the ultimate sacrifice. In a final fateful moment, Lily stood before the mansion, the place that had shaped her life in ways she could never have imagined. The dark forces swirled around her, their power pressing in on all sides. With the historian by her side, Lily made the final sacrifice. As the curse was broken, a great wave of energy surged through her, and the mansion's grip on the land was finally released. The dark forces dissipated, leaving behind only silence. Lily's life ended, but her sacrifice was not in vain. The mansion, its secrets, and its curses were gone forever. The world, once again, was free. The mansion stood in silence, its secrets buried in the earth, its dark presence finally gone. The surrounding land seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, as though a heavy weight had been lifted from the world. Those who had once feared the mansion now spoke of it only in whispers, remembering the strange events of the past, but Lily's sacrifice did not go unnoticed. The historian, forever changed by the journey they had shared, returned to the city with a newfound sense of purpose. He was determined to honor her memory by writing the true story of the mansion, sharing it with the world, so that her bravery would never be forgotten. Though the mansion was gone, the ripples of its legacy were still felt in the world. The historian's book became a bestseller, captivating readers with its haunting account of the mansion and Lily's final act of courage. The land where the mansion once stood was cleared, and a peaceful park took its place. Lily's family, who had never fully understood the weight of her connection to the mansion, found comfort in knowing that her actions had saved countless lives. They planted a tree in her honor in the park, a symbol of new life and growth where darkness had once reigned. Years passed, and life slowly returned to normal. But some still swore they could hear footsteps in the park, echoing through the moonlit night. It was as if Lily's spirit still wandered the land, watching over those who came to enjoy the peace she had fought so hard to restore. One night, a young couple walking through the park stopped when they heard the sound of soft footsteps behind them. They turned, but no one was there. The couple laughed nervously, thinking it was their imagination. But the footsteps, faint and gentle, continued to follow them until they reached the park's edge. The stories of the mansion and Lily's sacrifice became legends, passed down from generation to generation. In the small town nearby, children would dare each other to visit the park at night, challenging each other to hear the footsteps of the woman who had saved them all. Though many dismissed it as folklore, there were always a few who claimed to have felt the presence of something, or someone, watching over them. The town, forever changed by the events of the past, had learned to embrace the mysterious and the unknown. One day, a young woman named Clara visited the park. She had heard the tales of the mansion and the footsteps, but she didn't believe in ghosts. However, as she walked along the familiar path, something caught her eye. A faint glimmer, almost hidden, appeared beneath the soil. Curiosity piqued, Clara knelt down and brushed away the dirt. Her fingers touched something cold. An old, weathered key. It was the key to the mansion, she realized. The same key that had once opened the doors to the dark past. What was it doing here, so far from the ruins of the mansion? Clara held the key in her hand, feeling a strange energy pulse through it. She had no idea what it meant, but she could sense that this discovery was significant. As she stood, she heard a soft whisper, faint, almost imperceptible. It was Lily's voice. "You found it. Don't let the past haunt you," the voice seemed to say. Clara froze, her heart racing. She looked around, but there was no one in sight. The wind carried the faint sound of footsteps again, but they faded into the distance, leaving Clara standing alone with the key in her hand. Determined to understand what was happening, Clara sought out the historian's book. She pored over the pages, reading about Lily's sacrifice, the mansion's history, and the curse that had bound the land for so long. The more she read, the more she felt connected to the story, as if something had called her to this moment. Clara knew she couldn't ignore the strange events she had experienced. The key, the whisper, and the footsteps. They were all signs something was drawing her toward the mansion's ruins, something she couldn't yet understand, but knew she had to uncover. Clara made her way to the park once more, the key clutched tightly in her hand. She wandered along the familiar paths, searching for any sign of the mansion's presence, but the land seemed peaceful, undisturbed. Yet as the sun began to set, Clara noticed a faint glow on the horizon. Following the light, she found herself standing in front of an old, overgrown path that she had never seen before. It was as if the land itself had hidden it away, waiting for her to find it. Clara took a deep breath and stepped forward, the key pulsing with energy in her pocket. The path led Clara deep into the woods, where the air grew thick with mystery. She could hear the soft sound of footsteps ahead of her, echoing in the stillness of the night. As she walked, the steps grew louder, closer. The footsteps seemed to be guiding her, urging her forward. Clara's heart raced as she followed the sound, the trees around her whispering secrets of the past. She felt as if she were walking in the footsteps of those who had come before her, drawn into the story of the mansion once more. At the end of the path, Clara found herself standing before an ancient stone door, weathered and worn by time. She inserted the key into the lock, feeling the heavy presence of the mansion's history surrounding her. The door creaked open, revealing a dark hallway, and as Clara stepped inside, the footsteps seemed to echo all around her. She wasn't sure what lay ahead, but she knew one thing for certain. The legacy of the mansion, the footsteps, and the courage of Lily lived on. Whatever mysteries lay beyond this door, Clara was ready to face them. The story was not yet finished, and she was now a part of it, bound by fate, just as Lily had been before her. Clara stood before the ancient stone door, her hand still on the cold, rusted key. The air was thick with the smell of old wood and earth, a lingering reminder of the mansion's long-forgotten past. With a deep breath, she stepped over the threshold and into the dark corridor beyond. The footsteps, which had been silent for a moment, returned. They were closer now, each step echoing against the walls. Clara's heart beat faster as she walked deeper into the mansion. She could feel the weight of history around her, and the feeling of being watched intensified. The mansion's secrets were just within reach. Clara followed the footsteps through the hallway until she reached a door at the end of the corridor. It was slightly ajar, as if inviting her in. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was small, dimly lit by the soft glow of moonlight filtering through cracked windows. On the floor, she noticed a dusty old book, its pages yellowed with age. She picked it up carefully, and as she did, a voice whispered from the shadows. "To my queen," it was Lily's voice again. "You've found the truth," it said softly. "Now you must decide what to do with it." Clara opened the book, its pages filled with handwritten notes and sketches. It was a diary of sorts, but it was not Lily's. This diary belonged to someone else, someone who had lived in the mansion long before Lily. The pages revealed secrets of the mansion's dark past, dark rituals, lost souls, and a curse that had plagued the land for centuries. The more Clara read, the more she realized that Lily had been part of something much bigger, a battle against forces beyond anyone's understanding. But now the story was incomplete. Clara felt a sense of responsibility. She had to finish what Lily had started. As Clara turned the pages, she discovered a chilling detail. The curse that had bound the mansion and its inhabitants was not just about fear and death. It was about control. Someone or something had been pulling the strings for centuries, manipulating events to trap souls within the mansion's walls. Clara could feel a strange pull in her chest, as if the curse was trying to reach her. But she also sensed that there was a way to break it. The knowledge was hidden within these pages, and she was the key to ending the nightmare once and for all. The diary mentioned a ritual that could break the curse, but it required a great sacrifice. Clara hesitated. Could she go through with it? The ritual required someone who was pure of heart, someone who could face the darkness without fear. But would she be able to confront the evil that had haunted the mansion for so long? Clara knew she had no choice. She had come this far, and the footsteps, the whispers, the mysterious forces, everything had led her to this moment. The mansion's secrets had chosen her, and now it was up to her to finish the ritual. The clock was ticking, and there was no time to waste. Clara gathered the ingredients for the ritual, as described in the diary. She could feel the presence of the mansion's dark history surrounding her, pushing against her resolve. As she stepped into the center of the mansion, the air grew thick, the walls closing in on her. The footsteps grew louder, almost deafening now, as if the mansion itself was alive, reacting to her every movement. With trembling hands, Clara began the ritual. She recited the ancient words written in the diary, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. The ground beneath her feet rumbled, and the mansion seemed to shudder, as though it were waking from a long slumber. Just as Clara reached the final verse of the ritual, a dark figure appeared before her. It was tall, shadowy, and seemed to shimmer with malice. Clara's heart skipped a beat as the figure moved closer, its cold, icy gaze fixed on her. It was the being that had caused all the pain, the one behind the curse. "You think you can break my hold," the figure hissed, its voice like 1,000 whispers. "You are too late. The mansion is mine, and it will always be mine." Clara stood her ground, her hand still clenched around the book. She could feel the power of the ritual coursing through her, pushing against the dark figure's influence. The shadowy figure reached out toward Clara, but she refused to let it take control. The ritual was almost complete. With every word she spoke, the mansion began to tremble more violently. The figure snarled, trying to stop her, but Clara's will was stronger now. She could hear the footsteps, not of the cursed soul, but of those who had come before her, their spirits supporting her in this final moment. The darkness began to recede, the figure shrinking into nothingness. Clara finished the last words of the ritual, and with a final flash of light, the mansion fell silent. The curse was broken. The footsteps, the whispers, the evil that had plagued the mansion were gone. The mansion was no longer a place of terror. It stood in silence, its dark past wiped away. The air felt lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted. Clara collapsed to her knees, exhausted but relieved. She had done it. The mansion, once a prison for lost souls, was free. Outside, the moon shone brightly, its light casting a peaceful glow over the land. Clara knew that she had changed everything, that the footsteps would no longer haunt anyone. The mansion's legacy had ended, and she had brought closure to the story that had haunted so many. Years later, Clara's bravery became legendary. She had not only broken the curse, but had also saved the souls trapped in the mansion. The park, once a place of fear, had become a place of remembrance, where people came to honor those who had fought against the darkness. Clara, now older, would often visit the park. On quiet nights, she could still hear the faint sound of footsteps, but this time they were gentle, reassuring. It was as if the spirits of the mansion were thanking her for her courage. The mansion was gone, but its legacy, and Clara's, would live on forever. Clara Mosley. Clara walked through the park, her heart light, knowing that she had freed the souls trapped in the mansion. The once dark and twisted place was now peaceful, and the memories of the terror that had once plagued it began to fade. The spirits had found their way to rest, and Clara felt at ease, knowing her journey had given them the closure they deserved. But there was still one mystery that lingered. She could feel a subtle pull, like a whisper in the wind, urging her to discover more. There was something else, something hidden beneath the surface that she had yet to uncover. It wasn't over, not quite yet. As Clara wandered deeper into the park, she noticed something strange, a glimmering stone half buried in the earth. It caught her attention, its surface smooth and polished, as if it had been placed there just for her. She knelt down and picked it up, feeling a surge of energy flow through her as she touched it. The stone was familiar, its surface marked with strange symbols. It was the key to something deeper, a final secret that had yet to be unlocked. Clara's heart raced as she realized the mansion's legacy wasn't just about the curse. It was about the hidden power that had been protecting the land all along. The stone led Clara to a secluded part of the park, near an old, overgrown fountain. She could feel the air shifting around her, the presence of something ancient and powerful. Following the pull in her chest, Clara approached the fountain and noticed that the base was covered in moss, hiding something beneath it. With a careful push, the fountain's base slid away, revealing a hidden chamber underneath. The chamber was small, its walls lined with ancient carvings. In the center, a pedestal stood with a glowing object resting on it. Clara could feel the energy pulsing from it, beckoning her to approach. Clara stepped into the chamber, her heart pounding. The glowing object on the pedestal was shaped like an orb, radiating a soft, ethereal light. As she reached out to touch it, the air around her shimmered, and a voice filled her mind. "You have come," the voice said, familiar yet distant. The curse was but a part of the greater plan. You are the chosen one, Clara. Only you can unlock the true power that lies within this land. The orb hummed in her hand as Clara realized the magnitude of her discovery. The mansion, the curse, the footsteps, they had all been leading her to this moment. She had been chosen to protect the land from something far greater than any curse. The orb's glow intensified as Clara held it close. A vision flooded her mind, showing her the history of the land, ancient guardians who had protected it from dark forces. The mansion, once a place of evil, had been built upon the land's powerful energy. And now, Clara was the next guardian, entrusted with the responsibility to protect the land from forces that still lingered in the shadows. The power within the orb surged through Clara, filling her with strength and clarity. She understood her role now, and the weight of it did not scare her. She had faced the darkness before and triumphed. Now she would ensure that it never returned. As Clara stood in the chamber, the orb's energy seemed to call to her, urging her to leave and return to the mansion. She felt a deep connection to it, as if the land itself was speaking to her. With newfound purpose, she left the hidden chamber and made her way back to the mansion, the orb glowing softly in her hands. There was no fear in her steps now, only determination. She had broken the curse, but this new responsibility was far greater. She was not just a survivor, she was a protector, a guardian of this land, and the weight of that title settled on her shoulders with a strange sense of peace. The mansion loomed ahead, its once ominous structure now standing proudly in the moonlight. Clara felt an unexpected warmth radiating from it, as though the mansion itself recognized her new role. As she entered the familiar corridors, The footsteps she had once feared no longer seemed threatening. They were different now, reassuring, like the land was acknowledging her presence. She made her way to the heart of the mansion, where the ancient altar still stood. The orb glowed brighter as she approached, and she placed it gently on the altar. The moment the orb touched the surface, a wave of energy rippled through the mansion, filling every corner with light. The mansion's transformation was complete. It was no longer a place of darkness, but a sanctuary. As the light filled the mansion, Clara felt a deep sense of calm wash over her. She could see the spirits of those who had once been trapped, now free and at peace. The mansion was no longer a prison. It was a beacon of hope, a place where lost souls could find rest. Clara stood before the altar, her heart swelling with pride. She had done what no one else could, but this was not the end. The mansion was just the beginning. Clara now knew that there would be other places, other forces that needed protection. She had embraced her destiny, and with the orb, she could protect the land from whatever darkness might rise again. Clara made a silent vow as she stood in the center of the mansion. She would protect this land, this legacy, for as long as she lived. The mansion, once a place of fear, would now be a symbol of strength and peace, and she would be its guardian, watching over it for future generations. The footsteps she had once feared now felt like the rhythm of life, a constant reminder of the responsibility she carried. Clara's journey was far from over, but she was no longer the frightened girl who had first entered the mansion. She was a guardian now, and her mission was clear. As the years passed, Clara's legend grew. The mansion became a place of pilgrimage for those who sought peace and healing. The spirits of the past were no longer trapped, but had found solace under Clara's watchful eye. The orb remained at the altar, glowing softly, its energy forever a part of the land. Clara never left the mansion. She watched over it, guarding it from any threat that might arise. And on quiet nights, when the moon shone brightly, she would hear the soft footsteps of the spirits she had freed, walking in peace. The mansion was no longer haunted. It was home. Years had passed, and Clara had become a figure of legend. The mansion was now a peaceful sanctuary, but on some nights, a strange feeling would fill the air. It was as though the walls themselves were whispering, telling stories of long-forgotten times. Clara couldn't ignore the feeling that something was still hiding, something that had yet to be revealed. One evening, while walking the corridors, Clara heard soft whispers behind her. She stopped, her heart racing, but when she turned around, there was no one there. Yet, the whispers continued. They seemed to come from the very walls, telling tales of a hidden truth she had never uncovered. The mansion was calling to her once again. Determined to uncover the source of the whispers, Clara explored parts of the mansion she had never dared to enter before. She found herself in a forgotten hallway, its door long since hidden behind layers of dust. The door creaked open, revealing a dark passageway that seemed to stretch endlessly. Clara hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward, knowing she had to follow this new path. As she moved deeper into the passage, the whispers grew louder. They were no longer just voices, they were memories, pulling her towards something unknown. Clara could feel the air grow colder, and a strange energy filled the space. This was not a normal part of the mansion. It was something ancient, something long buried. At the end of the passage, Clara discovered an old wooden door, its surface covered in intricate carvings. The door seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if it was alive. Clara reached out, her fingers brushing against the carvings, and the door slowly creaked open. A rush of cold air hit her as she stepped inside, and she found herself in a vast chamber, unlike anything she had seen before. As if the room was dimly lit by a faint, glowing light that seemed to emanate from the very walls. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a large, ancient book. Clara approached it slowly, her curiosity overwhelming her. She could sense that this book held the final piece of the mansion's mystery. Clara reached for the book, its cover worn and faded with age. As her hands touched it, she felt a surge of energy, and the room seemed to shift around her. The pages of the book began to turn on their own, stopping at a page covered in strange symbols. Clara leaned in closer, trying to decipher the ancient text, but the words seemed to move and change as she looked at them. A voice echoed in her mind. The mansion's secrets lie within these pages. Only the chosen can unlock its true meaning. Clara's heart skipped a beat. She had always known there was more to the mansion than met the eye. Now she was finally about to uncover its deepest secret. As Clara continued to study the book, she began to understand the true history of the mansion. It had once been a place of great power, built by a secretive order of guardians who had protected an ancient artifact. But over time, greed and betrayal had corrupted the order, and the mansion became cursed, trapping its guardians and those who sought its power. And the whispers Clara had heard were the voices of those who had fallen victim to the curse, their souls forever bound to the mansion. The footsteps she had once feared were the echoes of their tragic fate, always searching for redemption. Clara now understood her role was not only to protect the mansion, but to break the curse once and for all. The book revealed a hidden ritual, a way to release the trapped souls and lift the curse, but it wasn't something that could be done alone. Clara needed to gather all the artifacts that had been scattered throughout the mansion, each one holding a piece of the power required to complete the ritual. She knew this would be her final challenge. The first artifact was hidden in the library, behind a wall of books. Clara had to search carefully, but when she found it, a small silver key, she felt a wave of relief. This was just the beginning, though. The ritual required all the pieces, and she would need to be quick. Time was running out. Clara realized she couldn't do this alone. She needed help, and she knew exactly who to turn to. The spirits who had once been trapped in the mansion. Over the years, they had come to trust her, and now she needed their aid. She called out to them, and one by one they appeared, their ethereal forms glowing softly in the dim light of the mansion. Together, they would search the mansion for the remaining artifacts. Clara felt a sense of unity with the spirits, no longer seeing them as mere shadows of the past, but as allies in her mission. As they worked together, the mansion itself seemed to respond, its hidden secrets beginning to reveal themselves. The search for the last artifact led Clara to the attic, a place she had never dared to enter. The air was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked beneath her feet. As she explored the attic, she found a trunk hidden beneath a pile of old furniture. Inside, wrapped in a cloth, was a small ornate mirror. Clara knew immediately that this was the final piece. With the mirror in her hands, Clara felt a surge of power. The ritual was nearly complete. She returned to the chamber with the book, where the spirits awaited her, ready to help her lift the curse. The mansion, Once a place of fear was now a place of hope. Clara placed the artifacts on the pedestal, each one glowing with its own unique energy. The book opened once again, its pages turning rapidly, and the air grew thick with anticipation. The spirits gathered around her, their forms becoming more solid as they lent their energy to the ritual. Clara began to chant the words from the book, her voice steady and clear. The mansion seemed to tremble as the ritual took hold. The ground beneath her feet shook, and the air crackled with energy. Clara could feel the curse being lifted, the souls of the trapped guardians finding their release. It was a moment of pure power, and Clara knew that she had completed her mission. As the final words of the ritual echoed through the chamber, the mansion erupted in a burst of light. The air cleared, and the oppressive energy that had once filled the halls was gone. The mansion, now free from its curse, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The spirits of the guardians, once lost and trapped, had found their peace. Clara stood in the center of the room, exhausted but victorious. The mansion had been transformed, its dark past erased. It was now a place of tranquility, a home for those who sought solace, and Clara, the chosen guardian, had fulfilled her purpose. The mansion was finally free. Clara stood in the quiet of the mansion, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. The once dark corridors were now bathed in soft sunlight, and the air was light, free of the weight it had carried for so many years. The mansion had transformed into a place of calm, a sanctuary for those who sought shelter. Clara knew that her journey was not over, but this was a new beginning. As she walked through the halls, she could still hear the faint whispers of the guardians. They were no longer fearful or trapped. Their voices now spoke of gratitude. Clara had given them the freedom they had longed for, and they were at peace. The mansion, once haunted by shadows, now stood as a symbol of hope. The transformation of the mansion was not just a physical one. Clara could feel the change within herself, too. Her heart, once heavy with the weight of the mansion's curse, was now light and full of purpose. The spirits, now free, lingered in the mansion, offering their silent support. Some of them appeared before her, their forms translucent but kind, their eyes filled with a silent understanding. One of the spirits, an elderly woman with silver hair, stepped forward. She smiled warmly at Clara, her voice soft but clear. "You have done what no one else could. You have freed us from the chains of the past. This place is no longer a prison, it is a home." Clara smiled back, grateful for the woman's words. The mansion had truly changed, and so had she. While the mansion was now peaceful, Clara sometimes felt as though she wasn't alone. The presence seemed to linger just beyond her vision, always watching, always waiting. At first she thought it was just her imagination, but as time went on, the feeling grew stronger. The presence was gentle, not threatening, but it was there. At last she could bear it no longer. One evening, while walking through the main hall, Clara heard the softest sound, a footstep, not her own. She turned quickly, but there was no one there. The air was still, the only sound the crackling of the fireplace. But the feeling of being watched persisted. Clara wasn't frightened. Instead, she felt a sense of familiarity, as though the presence was someone she knew. Curiosity drove Clara to investigate further. She wandered through the mansion, listening for the faint footsteps that followed her and searching for any signs of life. As she explored the mansion's deepest rooms, she came across a dusty old mirror hidden behind a tapestry. It was covered in a thin layer of dust, but something about it caught her attention. When Clara wiped the dust away, she was startled to see her reflection change. The image in the mirror shifted, showing not just her own face, but the faint outline of another figure standing beside her. It was as though the mirror was showing someone who had been lost to time. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Was this another spirit? Or was it something else entirely? The figure in the mirror began to take shape, slowly becoming clearer. Clara's heart raced as she recognized the face. It was someone she had never seen before, yet their eyes held a familiar sadness. The figure reached out, their hand touching the glass. Clara instinctively placed her hand on the mirror, and for a moment she felt a cold rush of air. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled like water. The figure stepped forward, emerging from the reflection as if stepping out of another world. Clara took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure looked at her with soft, sorrowful eyes. "You have freed them," the figure said, their voice barely a whisper. "But you have yet to release me." Clara's mind raced. Who was this figure, and why did they feel so connected to the mansion's past? The figure revealed its identity, a long-forgotten guardian, one who had once protected the mansion but had been lost to time. This spirit had never been part of the curse that had trapped the others. Instead, they had chosen to leave, sacrificing themselves to ensure the mansion's safety. But in doing so, they had become a part of the mansion's very fabric, their presence lingering in the shadows. Clara felt an overwhelming sense of connection to this spirit. It was as though they had always been there, guiding her even when she didn't realize it. The spirit, now free from the mirror, stepped forward and placed a hand on Clara's shoulder. "You were the one who brought the light back to this place," they said. "But now, it is time for me to leave, just as you did." As the spirit spoke, Clara felt a strange peace wash over her. She knew that the mansion was no longer a place of sorrow or fear. It was a place of growth, of healing, and of new beginnings. The spirits smiled, their form slowly beginning to fade. "Thank you, Clara. You have set us all free." With those words, the spirit vanished, leaving Clara standing alone in the quiet of the mansion once more. For the first time in years, Clara felt truly alone, but not in a lonely way. The mansion had become a peaceful sanctuary, a place where she could start anew. The last of the spirits had gone, their journey complete. And now it was Clara's turn to forge her own path. The days that followed were peaceful. Clara worked to restore the mansion, turning it into a home once again. She planted gardens in the courtyards, cleaned the rooms, and repaired the broken windows. It was hard work, but it felt right. Each task brought her closer to a sense of belonging, to a life she had never imagined for herself. As she walked through the now bright halls, Clara reflected on everything she had experienced. The mansion had been a place of darkness, but it had also been a place of great power and purpose. She had faced her fears, discovered the mansion's secrets, and helped free the trapped souls. And in doing so, she had found herself. Years passed, and the mansion became a place of legend. Clara's name was remembered in stories and whispers, and her journey was told to those who sought to understand the mysteries of the mansion. It became a place where people came to find peace, to connect with the past, and to find hope. But Clara's journey wasn't just about the mansion. It was about the legacy she left behind. She had shown the world that even in the darkest places there was always a way out. The mansion was no longer a symbol of fear, but a beacon of hope, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. On final evening, Clara stood in the moonlit corridor, the place where it all began. The air was calm, and the silence was comforting. He smiled, knowing that the mansion was now a place of peace, where the past had been laid to rest and the future was full of promise. The footsteps that once echoed through the halls were now gone. There were no more whispers in the shadows. The mansion was finally free. Clara closed her eyes, feeling the cool breeze against her skin, and knew that her journey had come full circle. The silent footsteps were no longer a reminder of fear, but a symbol of the new life that had blossomed in this place. And with that, Clara knew it was time for her to rest. The mansion was at peace. As the years passed, the mansion continued to thrive in its newfound tranquility. Clara had long since retired, but she had left behind a legacy that would echo through the halls for generations. People spoke of her bravery and the mysterious mansion she had saved from its dark past. It was said that Clara had brought light to the mansion, and in return, the mansion had given her a life she had never imagined. One day, a young couple came to visit the mansion. They had heard the stories of Clara's bravery and the mansion's transformation, and they were curious to see it for themselves. As they walked through the halls, they noticed the same peaceful atmosphere that Clara had created. The once feared mansion now felt like a place of comfort, a place to start anew. While exploring the mansion, the young couple stumbled upon the old corridor where Clara had first heard the footsteps. The corridor was just as silent as the rest of the mansion, but the young woman felt a strange sensation, a subtle presence, as if someone was watching them. She stopped, her heart racing. Her partner, noticing her discomfort, asked if she was okay. She nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was still present in the mansion. It was then that they heard the faintest sound, a footstep, soft and slow. They turned to see nothing but empty air. The presence, though, felt familiar, as if it had been waiting for someone to return. The couple was drawn to the old library, a place that had been untouched for years. The shelves were filled with dusty books, their spines cracked with age. As they browsed through the shelves, the young man found an old journal buried beneath a pile of forgotten papers. It was Clara's journal, and as they opened it, they found the story of her journey and the spirits she had freed. The journal spoke of the mansion's dark history, the haunting footsteps, and Clara's bravery in confronting the shadows of the past. The young couple read on, mesmerized by the courage Clara had shown in the face of fear. They realized that Clara's spirit still lingered in the mansion, her legacy a beacon of strength and hope. As the couple read further into the journal, the young woman felt a shift in the air. The temperature seemed to drop, and a soft whisper echoed through the room. She looked around, her eyes wide with wonder. Was it possible that Clara's spirit, or perhaps the spirits of the guardians, had returned? The air felt charged with energy, and the shadows seemed to shift in the corners of the room. "How she do, my little one?" she said. Suddenly, a soft glow appeared near the fireplace. The couple approached, their hearts pounding with both fear and excitement. As they reached the glow, the figure of an old guardian appeared, their translucent form glowing faintly in the dim light. The spirit smiled at them, their presence calm and reassuring. "You have come at the right time," the guardian said. their voice gentle but clear. The guardian explained that while Clara had freed the trapped spirits, some had remained to watch over the mansion and its new occupants. Their task was not one of confinement, but of protection. The mansion, though peaceful, still carried a power that needed to be safeguarded. Clara's actions had ensured that the mansion would remain a place of healing, but it was up to the new inhabitants to carry on her legacy. The young couple listened carefully, understanding the responsibility they now held. They had been drawn to the mansion not just because of its history, but because they were meant to help preserve the peace Clara had fought so hard to achieve. They vowed to honor Clara's memory, and the spirits granted them. That night, the couple sat on the mansion's balcony, overlooking the moonlit garden. The air was still, and the only sound was the gentle rustling of the trees. The spirits of the guardians had disappeared, leaving behind a sense of calm and peace. It was as though they had been given the final gift of rest, knowing that the mansion was in good hands. The young couple made a promise to each other and to the mansion. They would care for it, restore its beauty, and ensure that its history was never forgotten. They knew that Clara's journey had not been an easy one, but her courage had left a mark on the mansion, and it would remain for generations to come. The next few days passed quietly, and the young couple began to settle into their new life in the mansion. The rooms were filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, and the once eerie hallways now felt like home. The couple would sometimes pause in the corridor where Clara had heard the footsteps, and they could still feel the faint presence of the spirits watching over them. One evening, as they sat by the fire, they noticed something different. There were no more footsteps, no whispers in the dark. The mansion had finally found its peace. The spirits, now free, had moved on, leaving the mansion to those who would care for it. The young couple sat together, content and at peace, knowing that they were the final chapter in the mansion's long and storied history. However, despite the peace that had settled over the mansion, the young woman couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. It was subtle, like a distant storm on the horizon, just out of reach but ever present. She didn't want to alarm her partner, but the unease she felt was undeniable. And one night, while exploring the mansion's garden, she stumbled upon a hidden door at the edge of the property. The door was old, its wood weathered by time, but something about it called to her. The moment she touched the handle, a strange energy pulsed through her body, and the door creaked open. Behind the door, the young woman found a hidden chamber, its walls lined with ancient symbols and runes. The air inside was thick with mystery, and she could feel the weight of centuries pressing down on her. As she stepped further into the room, a sense of foreboding washed over her. It was clear that this room had been sealed for a reason. At the center of the chamber there was a pedestal, and atop it, an object wrapped in velvet cloth. With trembling hands, she uncovered the object and found a small, intricately carved box. She knew immediately that this box held the final secret of the mansion, a secret that had been hidden for generations. As the young woman held the box in her hands, she could feel its power. It was as though the box contained all the memories, all the stories of the mansion and its spirits. The box seemed to hum with energy, as though it was alive. She could feel the weight of its legacy, and she knew that opening it would reveal something important. With a deep breath, she carefully opened the box. Inside, she found an ancient key, a key that seemed to glow with a faint, otherworldly light. It was a key to something hidden deep within the mansion, something that had been locked away for a reason. The young woman felt the pull of the key, knowing that it was her responsibility to uncover what it unlocked. The young woman stood still, the key warm in her hand. She knew she could no longer ignore the pull it had on her. The mansion had kept many secrets for years, and now it seemed the time had come to uncover them. With a glance at her partner, she explained her discovery, and together they decided to follow the key's mysterious call. They ventured deeper into the mansion, the walls now feeling more alive than ever before. Each step seemed to echo with history, and every shadow appeared to whisper forgotten tales. The young woman's heart raced as they approached an ancient door at the end of a narrow hallway. A door she had never noticed before. The key, which had remained silent for so long, now vibrated in her hand, as if urging her to open it. The door was made of thick oak, its surface covered with intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story of long-lost times. As they inserted the key into the lock, a deep, resonating click sounded through the hall. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a narrow staircase that spiraled down into the unknown. The air was heavy with anticipation as they descended the stairs. The atmosphere grew colder with each step, and the faint scent of damp earth filled their nostrils. The staircase seemed to stretch forever, as if leading them into the very heart of the mansion's secrets. They reached the bottom, and there, in the dim light, stood a vast, hidden chamber. The room was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was vast, its walls lined with strange symbols, and in the center of the chamber lay an enormous stone table covered in dust. The air hummed with an ancient power, and as they stepped further inside, they could feel the weight of the past pressing down on them. On the stone table there was an open book, its pages yellowed with age. As the young woman approached, she realized that the book was not a mere artifact. It was a diary, one that had belonged to the original owner of the mansion. She carefully began to read, and as she did, the truth of the mansion's history began to unfold. The diary told the story of the mansion's construction and the dark legacy of its first owner. It was said that the mansion had been built on cursed land, and the first owner had made a pact with the shadows to gain unimaginable wealth and power. However, the price of such power was steep, and over time, the mansion had become a place of fear and suffering, with each generation paying for the sins of the past. The young woman could feel the weight of the curse lingering in the air, but she also felt a strange sense of hope. The diary mentioned a way to break the curse, an ancient ritual that could restore balance to the mansion. The ritual required courage, sacrifice, and a willingness to face the darkest parts of the mansion's past. The couple read on, discovering that the ritual was not one to be taken lightly. It required the participation of both a descendant of the mansion's original owner and a person pure of heart, someone willing to face the deepest fears and confront the darkness that had taken root in the mansion. They realized that the key the young woman had found was a crucial part of the ritual. As they studied the ritual's instructions, they both knew that they had a decision to make. Could they go through with it? The mansion had been their home for so long, and they had grown to love it, but could they sacrifice everything to ensure its future? They looked at each other, understanding the weight of the decision that lay before them. As the couple stood in the chamber, contemplating the ritual, the shadows in the room seemed to shift, swirling around them as if alive. The air grew heavier, and the whispers returned, louder this time. They were no longer just echoes. They were voices, calling out to them, tempting them with promises of power, wealth, and endless life. The young woman shuddered, but she knew that the mansion had been waiting for someone to confront the darkness. She turned to her partner, who nodded solemnly. They had to face the shadows, even if it meant putting everything they had on the line. Together, they would complete the ritual and free the mansion from its cursed past. Following the instructions in the diary, the couple began to prepare the ritual. They gathered the necessary items, placing them around the stone table in a perfect circle. The air crackled with energy as they began to chant the ancient words from the book. As they spoke, the room seemed to come alive, the walls glowing with a soft, ethereal light. The shadows in the chamber grew restless, swirling faster as the ritual progressed. The young woman could feel the power of the curse pushing back against them, trying to resist the ritual's influence. But they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. They had come too far, and the mansion's future was now in their hands. As they reached the final words of the chant, the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. The stone table began to tremble, and the shadows coiled around them, pressing in like a vice. The young woman felt a sharp pain in her chest, as if the curse itself was trying to consume her. But she didn't give up. In that moment, she realized that the ritual required a sacrifice. It wasn't just about freeing the mansion. It was about giving something in return. The young woman looked at her partner, who understood without words. They both knew that the price of freedom was steep, but it was one they were willing to pay. With one final, powerful chant, the shadows screamed, and the room exploded with light. The light from the ritual engulfed the entire chamber, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to stand still. The whispers faded, and the shadows dissipated, leaving nothing but a profound silence. When the light finally subsided, the couple found themselves standing in the center of the chamber, the stone table now calm and still. The curse had been broken. The mansion was free. The young woman and her partner looked at each other, exhausted but relieved. They had done it. They had freed the mansion from its dark past, and in doing so, they had secured its future. The air was fresh, and the oppressive weight of the mansion's history had lifted. It was a new beginning for them, and for the mansion. The couple returned to the mansion's main halls, where the first light of dawn was beginning to break through the windows. The mansion, now quiet and peaceful, felt like home once again. The footsteps that had once echoed through its halls were no longer there. The house had found its peace, and so had they. As they stood in the heart of the mansion, they knew that the mansion would never forget the journey they had taken together. It would remember the courage, the sacrifice, and the love that had freed it from the shadows. The couple looked out the window, knowing that their story was just the beginning of a new chapter for the mansion and for themselves. The morning sun gently illuminated the mansion, casting soft light over its once darkened halls. The couple stood side by side, feeling the peace that had finally settled in the air. The shadows that had once lurked in every corner were now gone, replaced by a calm that had never been there before. They walked through the rooms, their footsteps no longer interrupted by the heavy silence of the past. The mansion felt like a new place, its energy lighter, as if it had been given a fresh breath of life. The young woman smiled, knowing they had not only saved themselves, but had freed the very spirit of the mansion as well. As they explored further, something strange happened. From the far end of the corridor, they heard a faint whisper, like a voice carried by the wind. It wasn't the haunting whisper of the shadows, but something else, something gentle. The young woman turned toward the sound, her heart racing with curiosity. They followed the whisper, which seemed to lead them to the old library, the one room they hadn't yet explored. The doors creaked open, revealing rows of dusty books and ancient scrolls. There in the corner lay a book that had been hidden from their view. It was old, its pages worn and fragile, but as she touched it, the whisper grew louder, clearer. The book opened by itself, its pages revealing a forgotten history. It was a journal, not unlike the one they had found before, but this one belonged to the mansion's original builder. As the young woman read, she discovered that the mansion had been a place of great love and great loss. The builder had poured his heart into every brick, every stone, hoping to create a home filled with joy. But the journal also spoke of the curse that had been set in motion by his own greed. He had sought power beyond human understanding, and in doing so, he had sealed the mansion's fate. The young woman felt a deep sympathy for the man, who had never intended for his creation to become a prison of darkness. As the young woman read on, she discovered a final entry in the journal. It spoke of a secret hidden beneath the mansion, a treasure that could undo all the wrongs caused by the curse. The treasure wasn't gold or jewels, but something far more precious, an artifact of great power, one that could restore balance to the mansion and the land around it. The journal mentioned a hidden passage beneath the library, one that led to an underground chamber where the artifact lay waiting. The couple exchanged a glance, understanding that their journey was not over yet. There was still one more mystery to solve, and this final secret could hold the key to securing the mansion's peace. Forever determined to uncover the treasure, they searched the library for any sign of the hidden passage. After a few minutes of searching, the young woman's hand brushed against a hidden lever behind one of the bookshelves. She pulled it, and to their amazement, the floor beneath them began to shift. A trap door slowly creaked open, revealing a dark staircase leading down into the unknown. With a deep breath, the couple descended into the darkness. The air was musty and cold, the walls damp with the passage of time. As they reached the bottom, they were greeted by an underground chamber, the walls lined with stone carvings and old relics. In the center of the room, on a pedestal, sat the artifact they had been searching for. A small, glowing orb. The artifact glowed with an otherworldly light, casting strange shadows on the walls. As the young woman reached out to touch it, she felt a surge of energy coursing through her body. The artifact hummed with power, and she could sense that it held the key to the mansion's final transformation. The couple knew that this was the moment of truth. The orb had the power to bind the mansion's history to a new beginning, erasing the pain and darkness that had plagued it for so long. But they also knew that once they used it, the mansion would never be the same again. The young woman carefully placed the orb in her hands, ready to face the final challenge. With the glowing orb in her hands, the young woman could feel its warmth spreading through her fingers. The air around her seemed to shimmer with an unseen force. As she raised the orb toward the ceiling, the room began to tremble gently, as though the mansion itself were waking from a long, troubled sleep. The room was painted a near purple blue, the color of the starlit sky. The couple exchanged nervous glances. The orb was responding to her touch, and the power it contained was undeniable. She whispered softly, as if speaking to the mansion itself, asking for forgiveness for the pain and suffering it had endured. The stone walls seemed to sigh, as if acknowledging her plea. The air was thick with the promise of change. Suddenly, a beam of light shot from the orb, striking the center of the room. The walls vibrated with energy, and the ground beneath them seemed to shift. The young woman could hear a distant sound, like the soft hum of a lullaby, floating through the air. It was as if the mansion itself were singing, its old bones creaking in harmony with the light that now filled the chamber. The young woman stood frozen, awestruck by the power of the orb. The light began to spread, slowly creeping across the stone floor, touching every surface, every crack in the walls. It illuminated the ancient carvings, making them glow with an ethereal light. For the first time in years, the mansion felt alive in a way that was not filled with fear. As the light reached the farthest corners of the underground chamber, a low, rumbling sound echoed through the walls. The curse that had long held the mansion in its grip began to break. The air, which had once been thick with dread, now felt lighter, almost pure. The shadows that had clung to the walls began to dissolve, leaving only warmth in their wake. The couple could hardly believe their eyes. The oppressive weight that had haunted them was gone, replaced by a sense of peace that seemed to wash over them like a cleansing wave. The young woman lowered the orb, and it dimmed gently, as if satisfied with its task. The mansion was no longer a prison of darkness. It was free. The light from the orb slowly faded, and the chamber was left in a quiet, serene stillness. The couple stood there for a moment, overwhelmed by the transformation. The mansion, once a place of fear and mystery, was now a symbol of hope and renewal. They knew that their journey was complete, but that the story of the mansion was far from over. The young woman placed the orb carefully back on its pedestal. It had fulfilled its purpose, and now it was time for them to leave. The mansion would continue to stand, its corridors no longer haunted by restless spirits, its walls no longer echoing with the footsteps of the past. It was a new beginning, not just for the mansion, but for them as well. As the couple stepped out of the chamber, a gentle breeze passed through the hallway. It carried a faint whisper, as though the mansion itself was bidding them farewell. The young woman glanced back at the orb, its soft glow barely visible now. "Do you think it will stay this way forever?" she asked. Her partner smiled. "As long as the orb remains untouched, I believe so." They walked down the grand staircase, now illuminated by sunlight streaming through the once dusty windows. The house felt warm and alive, as though it had shed centuries of sorrow. But just as they reached the main door, the young woman paused. She thought she heard a faint melody, a lullaby. She turned, but nothing was there. Before leaving, they decided to explore the garden, which had been overrun by weeds for decades. To their surprise, the flowers were blooming. Roses, lilies, and wildflowers swayed gently in the breeze. "It's as if the mansion is thanking us," the young man said, kneeling to touch the petals. In the center of the garden, they discovered a small fountain. Water trickled softly, its sound blending with the birdsong. On the edge of the fountain lay an old, worn key. The young woman picked it up and held it tightly. "Perhaps there's one last secret waiting for us," she whispered. The key felt cold and heavy in her hand as they returned to the mansion. They searched room after room, testing the key on every locked door, but none yielded. Finally, they arrived at the attic. The door creaked open to reveal an old chest. The key fit perfectly. Inside, they found journals, photographs, and letters. The mansion's history unfolded before them, tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. They realized the house was once a refuge, a place where people found solace in their darkest hours. "This is its legacy," the young man said, holding up a photo of the original owners. Among the items in the chest was a delicate necklace with a pendant shaped like the orb. The young woman held it to her heart, feeling its warmth. "This must belong to the mansion's first mistress," she said. "It's beautiful." The moment she put it on, she felt a rush of emotions, not her own, but those of the woman who once lived there. Love, sorrow, and a fierce determination to protect her family. Tears welled up in her eyes. "She loved this place," she whispered. "She gave everything to keep it safe." On the bottom of the chest was a sealed envelope. The wax seal bore the emblem of the mansion. They opened it carefully, revealing a letter written in elegant handwriting. "To those who find this house holds not just memories, but the essence of those who lived and loved within its walls. It is my wish that it remains a sanctuary, a place where all who enter find peace. Thank you for freeing it from its pain. May it bring you the same joy it brought me. With love, Eliza." The young woman clutched the letter tightly. "She knew we would come," she said. When they returned to the nearby village, the change was already noticeable. The air felt lighter, and the villagers were no longer afraid to approach the mansion. Many came to thank them, sharing stories of how the house had once been the heart of the community. An elderly woman approached them with tears in her eyes. "You've done what we never could," she said. "The house is alive again." The couple felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing they had restored more than just a building. They had revived its soul. Weeks passed, and the couple decided to move into the mansion. It felt like the right choice. They repainted the walls, repaired the furniture, and filled the house with laughter. The orb remained on its pedestal, a silent guardian of their new life. The young woman often sat in the garden, reading the old journals and learning more about the lives that had come before. Each story inspired her to write her own, capturing the mansion's essence in her words. The villagers organized a festival to celebrate the mansion's renewal. Lanterns were hung from trees, and the garden was filled with music and laughter. The couple watched from the balcony, their hearts full. As the night wore on, they saw something extraordinary. A faint glow from the orb in the chamber. It pulsed gently. Thank you for joining us at Stories for Sleep. We hope tonight's story helped you find the peace and calm you needed to drift off into a restful sleep. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue bringing you soothing tales every night. Remember, sweet dreams are just a story away, so come back anytime you need a little escape from the world. Good night, and sleep tight.